equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Hey everyone, a quick announcement about our Patreon. Good evening and welcome to Monsters Among Us.
Hi Derek, my name is Bree. I just want to start off by saying that I absolutely love your podcast. I listen to it every day, and I absolutely am so intrigued by everyone's personal ghost experience stories. This actually gave me the confidence to tell
Welcome,
you my
guys.
story today. I live in Thousand Oaks, California. I've lived there my whole life, and the date that I experienced.
All right, so this story is going to take place in Thousand Oaks. I haven't done a live in a hot minute, so thank you guys for joining me on a Friday evening. Oh, you're making, what are you making? Okay, and you know what's so interesting? I'm wearing like my Chucky Hello Kitty mashup with like the bows. I'm loving these. I got them for my birthday and I haven't worn them up until today.
My own little ghost encounter was back in December 1st, 2011.
All right,
my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer at this time, and on this day we woke up like any other day. I woke up, did my normal stuff, getting ready for school. My dad was
a salmon roll? So that sounds pretty good.
Left for school, I went in his room and I said my good mornings. I love you so much. I'll see you after school, Dad. At this time, my dad didn't even respond to me. He had his back face towards me and didn't say I love.
Okay, sorry, don't mean to interrupt the story, but quick side note. You know how there's sanitizer for your hands? I recently got a facial sanitizer. I know this sounds so funny. Blake, I think it's how you say Blake. Good afternoon, been looking forward. Oh, thanks, Blake. So I'm live on both YouTube and TikTok right now. But I don't mean to like advertise this, but this has been like the best thing ever, is like this sanitizer for your face. It's pretty wild. I don't know. Oh, of course TikTok restricts things because it always does this. I don't know what's up. TikTok just sucks. Which is why I've been making it a point to go live on both YouTube, or other platforms with TikTok, because literally anything I do on here on TikTok, I get restricted. I get so restricted. It's so annoying. Even like some of the stories. So we're going to be listening to Monsters Among Us podcast. They do, phone call. It's basically phone callers sharing their ghost stories. And there's some stories on here that I'm just like kind of nervous at times because I'm like, well, I don't want somebody to say something and then all of a sudden I get restricted for that. It's so stupid. So anyway, just wanted to add that on there. So if you can join me over on YouTube, or subscribe to my YouTube, because I do have videos on there as well. I'm in Los Angeles, California. Oh, thank you so much. My hair is a little thank you. I know it's not the best right now, but it's going there. Thank you. All right, let's continue the story.
It was very odd to start off with. I just, brushed it off my shoulders, thought to myself that, I'm going to see you after school, so not a big deal. Maybe my dad just wasn't feeling good that morning. So I went to school, and immediately on my first class, I think that was around 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, I had this, overwhelming feeling of just, desperation, just sadness, desperation. I was very upset, and I didn't know why. About 30 minutes later, I got called into our front office, and when I walked into the front office, there was a police officer waiting there for me. As a young 17-year-old girl, I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I get in trouble for?
I have no lips. I know.
They wouldn't tell me anything. They got me into the patrol car, took me back to my home. When I arrived to the home, I saw a whole bunch of chaos. A bunch of police cars, ambulances, everything was going on. And of course,
hi Danielle, giving you a shout out.
When I walked into my house,
is your hair
I saw my
pink?
mother on the couch.
It's cool if it is, either way.
I'm so sorry for your loss. Come to find out, my dad had committed suicide that morning. I was absolutely devastated. We were all devastated, of course, with any loss that you would have in a family. That afternoon, once they took out the body.
Hi, Tyler.
We had family over. Everyone was coming over to consolidate us, be there to support us. My aunt had told me,
thanks, Rick.
Let's go
you guys are so nice over here on YouTube.
And just see if there's anything that your dad may have left
behind,
such as a note. I walked into my bedroom and was immediately drawn to...
Okay, this is a dark story, so I apologize in advance. Very much. And it sounds like I got 2 restrictions already on TikTok for God knows what. So I don't know what's going on over there. So annoying. Oh, happy to see you guys. I haven't done a live in a long time, so I'm really sorry about that. It's been a minute. I feel like October was packed with so many things. I'm still um I'm still basically working on my not scary video because I'm going through some of the footage on there, and I've never gone to Not Scary. I know like haunt season is over and stuff like that, but it was my first time going, so I'm gonna just post it whenever I get done with it, and then hopefully by next year I can just remind people like, hey, here are the haunts I did. Hi. Wait, what 11 people witnessed what? Sorry. On TikTok, David says, my family was so traumatized with the Ouija board in the 80s and 90s, most people in my neighborhood. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, the one thing I will say about Ouija boards is I think that intention is everything, protection is everything, whether it's using a Ouija board, whether it's going to a haunted location, whether it's visiting cemeteries, any place that holds energy of any significance, you should always want to have a firm foundation in terms of your protection. Like there's this thing that like people don't not talk enough about is spiritual hygiene. And I'm not saying like be religious, I'm saying what is your spiritual like hygiene? How do you get rid of unwanted energy from your space? How do you cleanse your space? How do you make your space feel like it is a place where you feel comfortable and safe? I feel like Ouija boards get such a bad rap because people A, don't know how to use them, and two, they use it as a toy, which is not wrong. I mean, they were sold as toys. But yeah, spiritual hygiene. So what I mean by that is, for example, right? Like on a basic level, this is what people do on a very basic level in your home. When you come home and you want to make it your home, you definitely set up decorations, you set up intentions. There's people that also set up things by the entrances of all of their house, like whether it's windows, doors, and so on. And they'll sometimes either put like, again, this is just maybe as an example of religion, but some people put a cross, some people put a money tree next to the entrance of their home. There's intentions that you set up in your home, and that alone is setting some type of like boundary for your life and your home. And so when it comes to spiritual hygiene, right? Like if your home feels icky, you're probably going to want to clean it on a physical level, but on a spiritual level, you want to definitely set up incense and just like, imagine all this energy leaving your house, especially if you have all these people at your house. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think you're at the wrong channel for that. I don't really give advice on on that. But yeah, so like little things like that, I can go on a tangent. I feel like I don't want to bore some of you guys with that, but if you want me to, I can go more into it, but things of that nature. Okay, cool. Let's continue on with the story. It is a little sad, so prepare for that.
My dresser. When I looked up towards my dresser, I saw a tiny little box. I opened up that box, and I've never seen it before. There was a bunch of money in it. I automatically thought, you know what, this came from my dad. He was saying his goodbyes. He wanted to leave me some money. But as I turned around to go ahead and show my aunt this box that my dad had left me, and I wanted to let her know there was no note, from my left-hand side, or my left side of where I can see, I saw a large orange ball of light just fly by me, coming through my room, out my window that was on my right-hand side. I know this is a very short ghost story, but I believe that was my dad's soul, and I believe that was him saying goodbye to me during that time. Again, Derek, thank you so much for your time and for listening to my story. I know it was very
Okay, that was a very short video. Very sad though. No, it's not my voice. So this is we're listening to a podcast called Monsters Among Us, and basically callers call in their paranormal experiences and they share it with the host. And one of the things that we've been doing on my live streams is listening to these stories, and I add in my take on it. And sometimes we'll occasionally listen to the host and what their take is as well. Now, since the story did end, basically she's saying that like her dad unfortunately came down with cancer, and she's okay, let me reread that because I know we've been going back and forth with this, so I just want to make sure that I have everything correct. So she says let me go to the beginning. So my dad was bedridden due to cancer. So before I'd left for school, I went to his room and I said my good mornings, and things like I love you, I'll see you after school. And at this time, my dad didn't even respond to me. He had his back faced towards me and didn't say I love you back, which I thought was very odd to start with. So anyway, I leave to school, not a big deal. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe my dad just wasn't feeling good that morning. So I went to school, and immediately on my first class, I think this is around 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, I had this overwhelming feeling of desperation, like sadness, desperation. I was very upset and I didn't know why. About 30 minutes later, I got a call from our front office. And when I walked to the front office, there was a police officer waiting there for me. As a young 17-year-old girl, I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I get in trouble for? What did I do? They couldn't tell me anything, and they wouldn't tell me anything. They got me into the patrol car. It took me to my home. And when I arrived at my home, I saw a whole bunch of chaos, a bunch of police cars, ambulances, everything was going on. And of course, I feared the worst. When I walked into my house, I saw my mother on the couch, and immediately they had told me, I'm so sorry for your loss. Come to find out, my dad had committed, okay, I'm just going to say this in a PC friendly term because I am on TikTok and TikTok is restricting everything. So she says, come to find out that my dad had unalived himself. I was absolutely devastated. We were all devastated. And of course, with any loss that you would have in a family, that afternoon, once they took out the body, we had family over. Everyone was coming over to consolidate us, or consolidate, console us. But there was support for us. My aunt had told me, you know what? Let's go into your bedroom. I want you to go into your bedroom and see if there was anything that your dad may have left behind, such as a note. So I walk into my bedroom, and I was immediately drawn to my dresser. When I looked up towards my dresser, I saw a tiny little box. I opened up the box that I'd never seen before, and there was a bunch of money in it. And I immediately thought, you know what? This came from my dad. Yeah, I don't know what they mean by chaos. That is a very good question. What does chaos mean? I don't know. I don't know what, like, I guess maybe the fact that there was, oh gosh, yeah, TikTok has given me 2 restrictions. Anyway, yeah, so there's chaos. I don't know what it means. I think perhaps like everyone was there, like the police, the ambulance, maybe the mom was like mourning is my guess. I have no idea. I mean, it is a very, very sad story. Do I think it's paranormal? It's really tough to say because it is a very short story, like she was saying. I think that her dad could have prepared since, we know his, unfortunately what happened. My guess is maybe like her dad knew, and so he decided that he was going to prepare and leave her money before doing what he did. No idea. It's tough to say. Man, I can't even open this box. I know TikTok is so lame. I don't know. It's really frustrating because I feel, well, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in January with like the TikTok ban and stuff like that. But it's frustrating because it's like not just myself, but a lot of people, their videos are getting suppressed. People are not seeing their videos as much as they used to see their, like there's a creator that I had been following and still follow, but I hadn't seen their video in like a year, 2 years, and it just showed up on my For You page. And I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. And I think it's because right now on TikTok, what's getting pushed out right now is a lot to do with like the election and all this stuff, and people are nervous. And oh, thank you, CJ. Thank you. So yeah, that's, but I feel like on YouTube, so far the lives that I've been doing here on YouTube, it's like, I don't know, people seem nicer. Also, it's interesting because I don't get restriction notices on YouTube. So I don't know, I see a huge difference in all of that. Heretic, can you remind me what that one is? I feel like I've been seeing stuff on it, but I'm not sure if I've seen it. I've been seeing so many things. I just I'm a very visual person, so I need to see like the imagery to remind myself like, wait, what did I watch? But yeah, so just little things like that. Why do you give it a 7 out of 10? I feel like I've been hearing a lot about Heretic. I don't have anything right now to look it up, but you have a monster on your bed. Hi, Jane. Yeah, TikTok is annoying. It's a sad. Okay, this is a sad story. Let's see what the host has to say because now I'm curious. What is
But I just wanted to let you guys know of my experience that I had.
Thank you, Bree. How awful.
very
Now,
awful?
I'm sorry for your loss and that you had to endure those events. Having suffered through something quite similar, you have my sympathy.
Oh, she saw an orange
Now,
orb.
As for the experience itself, what do we think, folks? Did Bree's father stick around long enough to ensure that she found the money that he left for her? Is that what she saw out of the corner of her eye? Or was this orange orb just an...
Oh, you think you were
unfortunately
probably
timed
paying better
coincidence?
attention than I was.
Well, even if it wasn't related, there's still no logical explanation as to why an orange orb of light would be shooting through someone's bedroom. Now,
I guess that's
regardless
true.
of the explanation, it sounds like Bree is pretty certain of what she saw. And given the timing and circumstances surrounding the odd occurrence, I'd have to say I agree. Thank you again, Bree, for bringing...
Jane, you were paying better attention than I was. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. What would orange, like, I wonder what the meaning in terms of like a orb, what would an orange orb mean in this case? Because when people talk about seeing orbs, they always describe it perhaps being like a white orb or yeah, like usually like a white orb, not different colors necessarily from what I've read online or what I've heard. This is like the first I've heard of someone say like an orange type of color. So now that's gonna stick with me. Like, what could that mean exactly? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of tough to say, right? Okay, let's see. Okay,
Hey
this one.
Derek, my name's Jack. I'm from Australia. Really enjoy the show. Got two stories for you. One is like a black figure I saw.
Speaking
when I
of
was
shadow
younger.
people,
And then another one is
I have
just
not. I
like
don't think I have.
a ghost, I guess you'd say. So I'll start off with the black figure. I remember one night I was trying to sleep in my mum's room because I was scared to sleep in my main bedroom at the time. Would always have night traumas. And we were lying in our bed, about to go to sleep. There's still a light on outside of the room. And I saw this tall figure. It was all black. It had like super long arms and super long legs. And its torso was
Oh,
like,
thank you for
super
that.
high. And it had just this
The,
little
the
head.
orange robes.
And it,
That's
like,
true.
moved and ducked under the door frame and came into the bedroom, like to have a look, to have a gaze, and then ducked.
Oh,
and
thank you.
went
That's so
out.
sweet of
And I
you.
screamed. I would have screamed my lungs out as a young boy. And
Color
the other story
orange.
I have is when I was about...
Okay, side note, sorry, before we start the story, I'm stuck. I'm still stuck on the orange orb thing. Thank you, Jane, for like searching on Google. Orange in some contexts, an orange orb may have a spiritual significance. That's true. I know like with chakras and things like that, people definitely talk about the color orange, even in auras. Compassion, I can see that. I know like red with like certain aura readings, it can mean like passion, action. And so I can see how like red or sorry, orange being in some of like the adjacency would mean like compassion. But then also in Buddhism, you're right, they do wear the orange robes. Letting go, you believe it means letting go. Yeah, I could see that. I can see that too. Thank you for that. That's so interesting. Either way, it's a sad story, and I'm going to sit with that one. Okay, so now we're ready for this next story. He said he has two stories. He's from Australia. And in case some people are just joining, he said that, okay, let me just go back from the beginning because that way I don't have to like he saw a black figure. There we go.
I remember one night I was trying to sleep in my mum's room because I was scared to sleep in my main bedroom at the time. Would always have night traumas. And we were lying in our bed, about to go to sleep. There's still a light on outside of the room. And I saw this tall figure. It was all black. It had like super long arms and super long legs. And its torso was like
I'm going to try
super
this
high.
today.
And it had just this little head. And it like moved and ducked under the door frame and came into the bedroom, like to have a look, to have a gaze, and then ducked and went out. And I screamed. I would have screamed my lungs out as a young boy. And the other story I have is
Okay, so that's the first story. Now he's going to get into the second stories, but basically for us to follow along, this is more me just saying it out loud too, so I can follow along as well and understand Bill better. So he's saying he saw a dark figure and it was in his bedroom. He said it moved and ducked under the door frame and came into the bedroom. I had to have it look, to have a gaze, and then it ducked and went out. Not sure what that means. A black figure when he was younger and he was asleep, which is, I feel like a lot of the time, side note, a lot of the time I've noticed that when people are sleeping, right, this goes hand in hand with sleep paralysis, is it's always someone in the middle of the, like waking up in the middle of the night and they see a shadow person, or it's someone in their bedroom and they see a shadow person. So something that like I've been noticing with a lot of the stories, both on like this podcast, what I read online, what I see even like on Reddit forums, other people's stories of the paranormal, I do notice that. So it is like it's already hitting like the classic, I saw a shadow person, I was younger, and it came towards me, like kind of giving me those vibes. Not dismissing it, I'm just simply saying that I have noticed a universal experience with that.
when I was about 19 years old. I was a pastry chef, so an apprentice baker.
Ooh,
And
apprentice
after
baker.
night shift one night, I was living in a house with a few friends. There's probably like 5 or 6 of us living there, and I'd woken up after just falling asleep, maybe like half an hour after just falling asleep, and I turned away from the wall. I was facing the wall when I slept. I turned away from the wall to just face the bedroom, and there was this man with a no shirt on. He might have had shorts on. I just remember
A man with
upper half. He was like,
Stop it. He said there was a man with no shirt on. He might have had shorts on. I just remember his upper half. He was really malnourished. Okay, that's already a recipe for Run for the Hills. I don't know why you're in there, but we'll see what he says.
really malnourished, and he had heaps of tattoos over his body and over his head. He had a shaved head, so he looks like, yeah. And I just remember just yelling or screaming and kicking in the direction of where he was sitting in my room on the floor. And
I'm sorry, but does this even sound paranormal? This sounds like there's an intruder in your home. He said there was a man with, okay, he said, let me reread this. I was living in a house with a few friends. There was probably like 5 or 6 of us living there, and I had woken up after just falling asleep, maybe like half an hour after falling asleep. I turned away from the wall I was facing when I slept, and I turned away from the wall to just face the bedroom. And there was this man with no shirt. He might have had shorts on. I just remember his upper half, and looked malnourished, shaved head, tattoos. I'm sorry, but like living in LA, I feel like I've met some people with that description. And then the fact that he said just yelling and screaming, I'm just like, did someone break into your house? Let's see what he says.
mind you, I had a mattress. I wasn't up on a bed. So when I woke up, I was on floor level, and I turned over and he was right there in front of my eyes. And I would have kicked or punched and hit this TV unit that was sitting behind where he was. And so I knocked that over. TV fell over, broke, and caused a bit of a ruckus in the house. Everyone got up, and I was explaining it to them.
Sounds kind of
No
scary.
one believed me. So yeah, those are my 2 experiences.
But wait, tell me how this is a paranormal. How do you know this is a paranormal? To me, it feels like someone broke into your house. And I've talked about this on my live streams a few different times, where there's this like phenomenon of, I think they're called like, it's called frogging, where, and it happens a lot more than we think it does. The idea that people live in your house and they are squatters. They're technically people that squat in empty houses, or houses that people tend to leave the house the most. And if they can live in your attic or in your crawl space or somewhere and get in your home when you're not there, they're going to do it. Like there's that viral video of this guy who put a camera in his kitchen, and he saw a woman come from the attic down to his kitchen to eat his snacks, and was living in the attic for like over a year or something like that. So it's like, you're what they're telling me about this guy yelling and screaming and stuff like that. But did he say, I didn't hear anything in there, nor can I read it on here. He said anything about it like he just vanished or it was paranormal. To me, it's like, did someone like break into your house or something like that? Like, What? Because you're saying he looks malnourished? He's in your home? I don't know. Just, yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know. We'll see.
I hope you can use this for the show. I really, really enjoy the show and the work that you do, mate. The whole layout of the podcast is unreal. I look forward to each episode every week. Good job. Take it easy, mate. Bye.
Thank you, Jack. Now, that first story sounded like a nightmare fuel, frankly.
But yeah, they're both
And the
nightmare fuel,
second-
but
Well, it's always good to hear about a ghost that's not some stuffy white guy in a suit or some stuck-up lady in a white dress. After all, if ghosts are real, we have to assume that people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and creeds would be represented in spirit form. So thank you again, Jack, for sharing your entry and those terrifying experiences. Now, folks, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with more Yuri.
yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I do agree with him though. I do agree that like one of the things that I tell people about, or when I've done like paranormal investigations or things like that, like ghosts, like I know a lot of the people that don't believe in ghosts or don't know much about like the phenomenon, they'll be like, well, why is it always like a lady in white and she's always like haunting things? I'm like, I don't know, but I do know that like he said, there's ghosts that can come up in many different shapes and sizes and races and so on. So it does happen. I have experienced it. God, I've experienced it. But I think that's why I'm really passionate about the paranormal, because I feel like there's a lot of these stories. Before I say this, ghost stories are history. And they're rooted in history, whether it's the urban legends that you hear of your hometown, whether it's the ghost story of the Queen Mary. There's a tint of history embedded in these stories because you talk about the time and place and what happened there. And in order to understand the tragedy that takes place in these ghost stories, you have to understand the foundation of like who, what, where, and why, right? And part of that does touch base on history. Even like speaking of like the political climate right now, right? Like there was this TED talk I was listening to, and they were talking about the ghost stories of the White House, and this guy was giving this whole speech on that. I'm like, that's so true. I think that's one of the reasons why I love listening to ghost stories. Yeah, I enjoy reading about ghost stories or hearing ghost stories, because not only do I get to learn more about people, but I also get to learn about the history, or like the history of a place and things of that nature. So, anyways, but I feel like a lot of these ghost stories, sometimes the ones that are about diversity, inclusivity, they don't get told all the time. I feel like ghost stories, there's so many stories that just get left out and not many people know about them. And yeah, I think there's something to be said about that, which is the reason why I do this type of content. Anyway, so
Entries.
oh, hi, Song Theory. You're doing amazing. Speaking of things, right? Like, so definitely I love your content. Killing it over there. But yeah, I think yeah, one of the things that I remember, I did a show and we were kind of doing we were doing a paranormal investigation, not kind of, we were doing a paranormal investigation. And I remember that the story, like the way that they were pushing the narrative for the story was in one way, but I was telling them, I said, look, I actually feel that there's this other part of this story that's being left out. And you know, it's something that I don't think a lot of people would want to hear about, if that makes sense, because people like to hear like the very Western perspective or Western, you know what I mean, of these stories. And that's not always ghost stories, you know what I mean? Like, I think of like how California, right? I live in Los Angeles, and we talk about classic Hollywood, and some of these stories are very much embedded in like the entertainment space. And some of these ghost stories are very much the perspective of white people. But also, it's interesting because California, right? It belonged to Mexico. And there's so many stories and neighborhoods that are very like Latino based or other different neighborhoods. And these ghost stories are never told. And I'm just like, man, I would love to hear more of those stories. I feel like it's very, very slowly seeping in there, but it's getting there. And I hope to like, I feel like there needs to be more of those stories being told. You know what I mean? But I went on a whole tangent with that.
Right after this.
Nick. My name is Yaz. I live in Las Vegas. And I did just want to tell a story that happened in high school.
Hope you guys can understand this.
Just
If
to
not, let me know.
preface, ever since I was little, I have always seen and felt things in my home growing up. But it kind of had stopped once I had gone into middle school. And I really hadn't seen anything up until about high school, my junior year. And during this time, I don't really remember if I was under extreme stress, and that's maybe why something was visiting me. But I do believe that I was.
Okay, I know the audio is not the best, so I'm just gonna, I'll probably just read it out loud. So she says her name is Yaz. She lives in Las Vegas. She's like, I want to tell a story that happened in high school. Just a preface. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always felt like I'd seen and felt things in my home growing up, but it had stopped once I'd gone into middle school, and I really hadn't seen anything up until high school. So it was my junior year, and during this time, I didn't really remember if I was under extreme stress, and maybe that's why something was visiting me, but I do believe I was visited by the Grim Reaper. So it was one evening, I remember I was in and out of sleep, and I was in a solid sleep. Sorry, I'm just reading what's said here. And I was woken up kind of abruptly. That's what it felt like. I had shared a room with my mom at the time, but I had my own little bed that faced into the hallway. And through the hallway, you could see the kitchen. And I remember I was waking up staring into the hallway because it was very spooky. Because when you're a little kid, and this one particular night, I had woken up from a solid sleep. I felt like something had woken me up, and I went to turn over and look into the hallway. As I looked past the hallway, I was looking into the kitchen, and there appeared to be a solid black figure that stood almost to the ceiling, and I just remember being petrified, and I could still move. I just chose not to move, and the solid black figure, as I looked at it closer, I realized it had a hood, and it was more so to the side profile that I was seeing. So I was seeing this cloaked figure. And I just remember telling myself, this is not real. You have to pay attention to what's happening. And as I looked even closer, I had noticed that it was holding a staff in the right hand. And I could see the silhouette of the staff in the cloak and everything. And I just remember thinking, since it was nighttime, this figure was darker than the area around it, darker than the night. And at the time I thought, maybe the light's playing with me. Maybe I just woke up from sleep and whatever. But as I stared at this thing for so long, it stayed there for a really long time. And where was I? Stayed there for long until I just fell asleep, because I remember thinking to myself as well that I can't show it fear. And this to me seems like it was a Grim Reaper, but I can't show fear because, maybe it'll act out towards me or whatever. But I ended up falling asleep, and I didn't feel the need to wake up my mom or anything, because I knew what I was seeing at the time, because I always kind of seen things, but I just never seen what appeared as a Grim Reaper. And shortly after, I was on edge, but I was afraid something would happen to my family members, or if it was a sign or an omen or whatever, and nothing did happen. So I'm not too sure what to think this was, but it was definitely terrifying. I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and hopefully you guys have a great rest of your night. Oh geez, this is a very loaded story. What's interesting? I remember a while back, there is so I made this video, and it was like, what was your creepiest childhood experience? And it's one of my pinned videos on TikTok, if you're ever on TikTok. But I remember, and on YouTube, if you just look up creepy childhood experience, there's so many videos of that TikTok and people sharing their stories with it. But what I'm trying to say is, I remember listening and seeing a video on a very similar experience, and it was a guy, and he said that he had seen something like that in his garage. And to him, because I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of La Santa Muerte. It is a very definitely Mexican predominant Latino type of deity is what you would probably call it at this point. And he didn't know what that was. Like, he didn't know until he saw the figure, and in the way he saw it, was a hooded figure. It had like a skull for a face, but it was very feminine. And to him, he thought that was La Santa Muerte. And it's interesting how do I word this? I feel like when it comes to experiences, because whenever you hear ghost stories or paranormal phenomenon, depending on the region, depending on your culture, it does shape and change the way you see these experiences. Not to dismiss it or anything like that, but she's describing what she thinks is the Grim Reaper based on what it looks like. But part of me is like, well, if you felt not scared though, or not enough scared enough to not wake up your mom, I'm just very curious to question, well, do we know for a fact, is it 100% the Grim Reaper? And why would the Grim Reaper visit and then nothing happen? So it's just like the questions that I have with this story, not dismissing anything. Could it be, and this is another thing too, I always tell people this, when you're experiencing paranormal phenomenon, or anything like that, you do want to set your boundaries by not giving into fear or not reacting to it. Because that could also amplify things. And the fact that she was like, oh, I didn't react to it. I'm like, that's good actually, because you're holding your boundary and you're not giving away your power to that. Legend on TikTok says, I saw a figure next to me. I jumped up and I found out it was my girl without makeup. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a very interesting, I don't know. It's tough to say. Let's see what the host has to say.
But you know, I've shared a story or two over the years that seem to detail the exact same thing that Yaz saw. Down to the stick, staff, scythe, whatever
Those
it
are
was
such
in
similar
its hand.
stories.
But is it really the Grim Reaper?
That's what I'm
Or
saying.
just another cloaked entity? Whatever it was that surprised you that evening, Yaz, we can't thank you enough for telling us about it.
Yeah.
Thank you again for calling in. Now, folks, before we load this next entry, a quick reminder that you can pick up all sorts of Monsters Among Us themed gear over in our merch shop. Just visit monstersamonguspodcast.com.
Hi, Derek. My name's Steve, and I'd like to tell you about something that happened to me when I was 13 years old in 1981. We lived in St. Helens, Oregon, and my father worked at the police department there in that town. And as anybody who has parents or is a police officer, they always have, or at least our way of life growing up was, there was always a police scanner going, and it was really loud. So anytime there was an occurrence that happened in town, the scanner would blast off. It was, again, like I said, 1981. I don't know the exact day, but it's documented and you can look it up online. But the scanner went kicking off, and there was all this chatter about a UFO over the river in downtown St. Helens. I remember sitting up in bed, listening to the scanner, and I remember my father getting out of bed and going out and listening to the scanner and starting to call people on the phone, trying to find out what was going on. That was like 4 a.m, and either that day or the next day, the officer who saw the occurrence came over to our house, and my father was having a discussion with him. He sent us to our room to get us out of their hair.
Side note, since this is like a UFO type of story, has anyone been seeing like this story? I know it was like really pushed on TikTok, and when I went to search for it on like on news outlets and stuff, I couldn't really find much on it. But there's this story, some of these videos are going around how like they're like, the government has confirmed that there are UFOs living in the ocean, but I haven't found like a credible news outlet yet as of that. Like a lot of these news outlets are very like right-winged, or they're from the UK, so very interesting. And then like the lady who was questioning is like a huge like Republican, I think she's a Republican like congresswoman or something like that from the state of Colorado, and people are upset that like what she decided to waste time and money on questioning people on UFO phenomenon. So there's this whole thing on this that I wanted to kind of like fine tune those details a little bit in the timeline, because I'm like, well, I think that's even a bigger story, how like this woman people did not want her to do it, and she went ahead and did it. And yeah, how she might be like a conspiracist or something like that. I don't know. It just, but I was like, this might be like worth talking about because it's kind of interesting. So I've seen some videos on it. I'm not sure if anyone else has seen like the UFO videos that have been circulating on the internet, but definitely interesting nonetheless. So yeah, I don't know if you've seen those videos, but tell me if you've seen it.
Because me and my brother were like, oh my goodness, a UFO, really? You know, and questioning. His name was Russ Yoakum, and he was like a friend of the family. And we were like, Russ, what was it? What did you see? Tell us, Russ, tell us. And that's when my dad basically told us Amscray and sent us to our room. So we listened through the crack of the door, and my father could not accept that Russ Yoakum saw a UFO. So he was like, Russ, you have to be mistaken. What is it that you really saw? Russ, are you pulling my leg? Russ, you have to be mistaken.
I forgot I was going to use this liquid. Okay, so I got this like Giorgio Armani liquid eye tint. So I'm going to go ahead and see what this is. It's like a very shimmer, and it's matching my shirt, but I forgot to put it on. So whoopsie, but we'll try it on. We'll see what this looks like. Ooh, it's fun. Kind of see the little shimmer, right? It's like a eye tint. I've never heard of these eye tint things, but I kind of like it. I feel like it's quicker to apply. Anyway, don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to like quickly show you this because I just got these.
And I remember Russ saying over and over, I know what I saw. It wasn't from this planet. I can't explain what it was. Anyway,
it's cute.
That was many, many years ago. Like I said, I was 13, and this was back in 1981.
Dang.
A couple weeks ago, I ran into another friend of the family who was also on the police force at that time. And I asked him a couple weeks ago, I said, hey, all this about the UFO, what do you think about it? What do you know? And he said,
so I don't have my tissue here with
Steve,
me.
that was a hoax. They were pulling our legs. I'm like, why do you say that? And he said, because that can't exist. So just like my father, who is now passed, God rest his soul, this other gentleman my father worked with just can't accept that this could possibly be something unknown.
Okay.
And Russ Yoakum is now gone as well. But you can find this documented online. Just look up St. Helens UFO sighting, 1981, Russ Yoakum, and you can hear what they recorded. Basically, there was a guy that lived across the river from St. Helens who, back then, it was all big CB. This guy was a big CB guy who was still awake at 4 in the morning when this happened. They were all watching it. This one guy named Lucky was on the other side of the river in Ridgefield, which is just across the river from St. Helens. Russ was on the St. Helens side, down at the river side.
This is kind of cute.
And
it's trying to like a reddish blue, but it's
Lucky on the CB.
I think it's okay.
And Lucky could hear it. Russ could not. So Lucky keyed up his CB, and Russ had a tape recorder going so he could get the audio of it. I've listened to it over and over, and it's really.
Oh, so I have my little like Hello Kitty.
Of course, it's 1981.
Too many Hello Kitty things.
But anyway, I thought you might enjoy our UFO sighting down in St. Helens, Oregon, and I thought I'd share. All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so we obviously have to watch this video eventually. I just don't have means to do it right now, but nonetheless, that all brings a question. So I've been wanting to do these like watch parties, like watching like either like paranormal footage together. I know it's like I love the idea of it, but because like when you put your concealer, right, you're like dabbing your like dab, you know, with this, it's like it just makes it look dirty. It's cute. It just like looks, yeah, I try not to use it much because I'm like, oh, it looks dirty. But right now I'm trying to put concealer on my lips because I'm gonna put lip liner. I've been trying to do this new method with my lips. with my little small tiny lips. I saw someone on here, they were like, I like your lips. I'm like, funny, you're funny. I mean, as if like that's original. And then my I have a lot of Hello Kitty things. I really do. Yes. Okay. So I ran to Walmart. I saw this on my Instagram. I saw like the little collection thing on my Instagram. And I like ran. I like told my husband, I said, we're going to Walmart right now. And this was there. The lady was like, oh, it's not, we're out of the collection. And I just wouldn't give up. I was like, we have to find it. We have to find it. So I asked a couple people working at Walmart, and they apparently had taken down the pop-up thing. So it was behind, this was behind like another Wet and Wild thing. It was like hidden. It was like hidden. I don't know if someone was trying to come back for it. And then we went online and we ordered another one. So I have like 2 more of these. So I was like, we have to do this. I'm obsessed with Hello Kitty. I've often thought about tearing down my setup here and just doing a whole Hello Kitty thing. But the thing is like I have the thing about Hello Kitty merchandise, I will say this. I love Hello Kitty, but I'm not a big pink girly. Like I like it on things, just not on me. So part of me is like, my outfits don't match that. So we'll see. I don't know. I love Sanrio. I feel like I love the My Melody and Kuromi combination. That I can deal with that. I even love this like the goth Hello Kitty. I feel like I could do like a goth Hello Kitty, but even like my little like stuffed plushies and stuff like that. I just dropped that. They're very pink. So I recently got rid of some plushies that I just don't really have out in the open. And this guy's like, wow, you really like pink. I'm like, no, it's just stuff that has been given to me. Yeah, I know. I have to be very careful with it. And then I get gifted, I feel like from like friends and families, all they know is that I like Hello Kitty, and they just gift me Hello Kitty things. And I appreciate the sentiments. Like I love that. I love that like my friends and family know that I love Hello Kitty enough to like gift me things. But then like as you were saying, like you have to be very careful with it because there's different aesthetics within the Hello Kitty stuff. So it's really hard to find it. I do love the Hello Kitty, like the 50th anniversary stuff. I've been so obsessed with that line because it's like this like shimmery, I don't know, I really love that. I don't know, I don't really feel like I have an aesthetic, if I'm being honest though. Like there are some people that just like they go hard on aesthetics, and I'm like, I love that for you. I love that for you. I think I'm just so, and I am clinically ADHD. I just feel like I'm so ADHD when it comes to that part of my life that it's hard to be like, boop. The iridescent vibe, thank you. Yeah, it's just, yeah, you know, I even have like I have the Twin Stars. I got the Wet and Wild. It was the Twin Stars box. I have like little things like Sanrio stuff. My mascara is really dirty because it's in my makeup bag. But even like the creme mascara, which I'm running out of, so I can't even use this as much anymore. So I have to go get a new one. So I'm like all about Hello Kitty, but you know, there's just some aesthetics. Like the more common one. So this was given to me. For example, this. Like it's cute. And for today, from what I'm wearing, it's cute because I'm doing the Chucky thing, right? This is cute. However, it doesn't really go with anything in my room. I have shoes that look like this. I rarely wear them. I struggle with aesthetics. Like I feel like I have somewhat an aesthetic here. For today, I know this is a little bit out there for today. But you know, my room is very much like the stuff that I own is very brown, spooky stuff. But some of this Hello Kitty stuff just doesn't go. So it is like an eyesore, and sometimes I have to like there's a part in my office where it's like that's where the stuff that doesn't match with anything go. And I hope that maybe one day it will go with the rest of my stuff. But yeah. Yeah, and the lighting right now that I have makes this look even like more brown, but there is a a look. I'm actually going to repaint this back wall. I'm in the process of picking out a color for this. Honestly, I might just go with a black background since I have a lot of brown, brighter things anyway, that I feel like maybe like a black wall would go well, because the rest of my house is more like colorful. You know, it's like your average. But this room is a little bit different. This is my little dark dungeon. My mom actually, when I got my house in Denver, our living room was like this brown, dark red color. And even like the lamp was like a dark maroon red. And black pink, not black. I honestly, I kind of love the chromey look. I really do. I feel like if I were to do like the purple, like the dark purple, black, that color, and maybe like the subtle pinks, I can do more Hello Kitty stuff and then like redo this whole wall and get rid of some things. Because I'm in the middle wanting to like redo this whole office room anyway, but we'll see. It's a lot of work. I see these videos of people who like love to remodel their home, and I'm like, how do you do it? I don't know how you can do it. I can't. I am not an interior person. I wish I was, but I'm just not. Okay, I need to get a charger because this phone's about to die. So give me 1 second. See if I can find. Actually, this might work. Yeah, my phone's about to die. Trying to run to get this no, USB. You know what's interesting is like changing having to have changed my phone and everything. Like these cords are so annoying right now. But yeah. If not, I'll just have to redo my life here in a second. Yes, I love Miniso and Daiso. They're opening up so many of them now. I've been seeing a couple of listings closer to me now, which is nice. I actually got invited to go to, I think it was Daiso. No, sorry, Miniso. To do a pop-up, but like back out there in like, I think in closer to Orange County, so it would have been a drive for me. But I got invited to be part of their pop-up, but then I couldn't go. So that makes me sad. I'm like, oh my god, people are slowly picking up that I am a Sanrio girly. And I used to work for a company. Oh my god, I have a story for this. This is another, speaking of Hello Kitty stuff. So I was doing things for a company, and they predominantly sold Sanrio stuff. It is a store. I won't name them just because I just won't for the sake of being cordial. But I worked with them very, very briefly. And I remember that like when I was doing the auditions, they had described my style as creepy cute. And I'm like, that's so funny. Because I could see that. I love Sanrio and I like spooky things. And creepy cute. What a great aesthetic. That's so funny to me. But yeah, so little things like that. I worked with them very briefly, and needless to say, like it was cute. Working there very briefly was very cute. Their hiring session, really odd though. That's why I didn't want to name them, because it's really weird. But okay, let me get my charger because my phone's gonna die. Oh my god, yes, yes, please send me stuff. Okay, let me get a charger. I'll be right back. Wait, unless I found oh, nope, I guess I don't have to travel far, because here's, I think I might have found something to charge my phone. There's just so many cords, like having to jump from like the new iPhone charger stuff, and it's interesting because like now when I'm like in my friends' cars, I'll be like, well, do you have the new iPhone now? Because like I have that charger. I'm like, yes, I have the new iPhone. And going through these like chargers, like there's all these cords I have to like get rid of too. Like I have to get rid of some of these cords. It's just so many of them. Okay. All right. There we go. Ooh, yep, that worked for like 2 seconds. Okay. Man. Okay, sorry, I was adjusting my other phone on YouTube. I know people are on TikTok like, what are you doing? Trying to not have my phone die. That's what okay, let me just connect to this because it's also I was not responsible. I did not charge my stuff last night. Don't be like me. Do not charge your stuff. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we all have done this at one point in our lives where we'll be like doom scrolling before going to bed and then you forget to charge your phone. That's me. That's what happened. And it's super frustrating and annoying. Because I'm like, man, I should just have the charger. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna plug this in. Plugging in this other charger. So many chargers to plug in. Okay, hopefully my phone can charge. Okay, so many things. No, I mean, so I actually got this Ouija board at an estate sale, not too far from my house. So it was like, what? So I found this in the garage, bunch of stuff hidden on top of it, essentially in the corner of like the garage. And I did a cleansing on it, but I've never had, I know people ask me like, have you ever had any spooky experiences with like paranormal stuff or like paranormal investigating or using a Ouija board or anything like that? Not necessarily. I think it's because honestly, like before I ever do any type of spiritual work, I always do my protection stuff. I set my intentions. So I haven't really had anything scary happen, if I'm being honest. I think the one time that I felt any form of like uncomfortable would have been like the very, very first time ever that I did a paranormal investigation ever. And this was actually a very interesting setup because what had happened is my husband had surprised me to a trip to New Orleans for my birthday. This was back in what's going on TikTok? Happened back in 2016-ish, I would say. And I can't believe it's like almost 10 years ago at this point. Anyway, so he had surprised me and we went to New Orleans and we had done a lot of sightseeing, but part of the surprising was he had booked tickets to do a paranormal investigation in the French Quarter. So at this time, I don't know if they still exist, but I loved the way that they did their setup because I don't really see this setup anymore. But what the lady did is she sold, I think like 20 to 30 tickets or something like that. And we were in the French Quarter and we were split up in groups of 4 or 5 people. And we were given a night vision camera, we were given a recorder and paranormal equipment. And so this is my first time ever doing anything like this. It was in the French Quarter of New Orleans behind a voodoo shop. That's what it was called. It was called like it was like a voodoo something shop. And the back of the house was like a guest house. It was like a yard and all the stuff. So anyways, they said that the house was haunted and we were allowed to go back there. And we were split. So it was me and my husband, and we were split with 2 people. And it was this couple. They were from, I think, like Tennessee or something like that. It was a gay couple from Tennessee. And they had told me that they had experienced paranormal phenomenon actually with their house because one of the guys, his grandmother had passed away and they felt like their house was being haunted by the grandmother. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So they obviously were going into this and one of the guys was like very freaked out, which I think that's what often more than not causes like spooky experiences is when someone is already going into this like not wanting to do it or super scared. Like that will literally put the vibes, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I think it made me kind of jumpy at times. But I wonder if I should do a reaction piece for that video because we do have footage from the whole night. And I posted like a small glimpse of it on TikTok years ago, but I don't know if anyone want to see that. Like if I were to do a reaction piece of that experience, because there was a lot, we rotated throughout the property. It was like, it was the first floor of the guest house that we all did like a spirit box session, and then we investigated like both the living room, the backyard, and the upstairs. But the upstairs you had access through the outside stairs. And so I think it was like spooky because he was scared and it was my first time ever. But did we get anything like demonic or scary? No. I actually feel like the reason why I love doing this stuff is because it's confirmation of things that we don't understand, if that makes sense. Like I've had more of those experiences where I walk away feeling more like, wow, that really happened. Well, you know, I just don't buy into like the propaganda and myths of Ouija boards, so that's why. There's a whole rich history on Ouija boards, and it's unfortunately has been kind of demonized through horror movies and things of that nature. We got to think about like the movies that came out that were demonizing and villainizing Ouija boards came from a time of puristic culture. So yeah, and a lot of the times that people use these things, they use it to try to get a reaction or not understanding how it works. Yeah, but give yourself more credit. Black people have a lot of like amazing practices, spiritual practices, and things of that nature too. And New Orleans has a lot of spooky and cool history. I think it would be cool reaction video. Yeah, I feel like there is a lot of interesting stories that the lady had told us about. And what sucks about that trip though was it was around the time that I had shortly like I think either I had just graduated college. I don't remember anymore, but I was like not I was in a place where I had major anxiety too, and that was like affecting a lot. I don't know. Okay, so here can I say something, David? I'm just going to say this. So like yes, do I think like yes, that's true. But there are like paranormal investigators that are Black. You just don't see them because they don't get enough representation. So I do think that's one of the things I was talking about earlier when it comes to like my content is like the reason why I talk about paranormal phenomenon is that I feel like you only see a certain set of group of people doing it. But when you allow, and I'm not saying like people are not allowed to this, but when there's more people getting representation and like getting uplifted, there are so many like rituals and respect that other cultures and other groups do that I think is very empowering. I'll give an example. So I remember a while back they were like, oh, we're Latino, we don't do this. Like someone was saying something like that. And I'm like, that's so interesting because so many cultures in Latino culture, we literally have Day of the Dead. Like we honor the dead. We know how to honor and respectfully handle these things. So that's so interesting that someone would say that because like a lot of spooky stuff is embedded in our culture and I love embracing it and not running from it. Okay. Trying to Yeah, so the New Orleans story though, it's okay, funny enough about the New Orleans story. So then like fast forward, I had a friend, I was talking to a friend of mine that I met out here, and I remember that because we used to work together. Dia de los Muertos, yeah. Day of the Dead. And yeah, there's so many cool things that like other cultures do that like it just doesn't get represented, and it just yeah, it's an interesting take on that. Ooh, this is like the mirror just like boop, like bounced off and like flashed in my face. Yeah, that the whole thing. I even did I remember that on that same trip I had gone to the Myrtles plantation. They were doing like this tour thing. And that was a fascinating experience and kind of a sad story. I mean, all of it is sad story, you know? I had to say that was probably one of the most intense places I've ever been. But since then, I actually think that the most haunted place is the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary is hands down one of the most haunted places. Okay. Trying to... Oh, that's okay. the Queen Mary, it just has like, okay, so there are some stories that the Queen Mary has, but like there's a lot of like hearsay with the Queen Mary. And the one place that I had gone to was we had done the theatrical seance. It's a theatrical seance, not a real seance. And the magician there, apparently like he owns like these antiques and stuff for his theatrical seance. I'm gonna have to like, I would love to talk to him more about this, honestly. And anyway, so we had gone to the theatrical seance that he had, and afterwards this couple was like trying to ask him questions about like these dolls, these like porcelain dolls that he had on one side of the room. And they're like, is it really haunted, da 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 da? And he was like explaining to them like the whole thing on this doll. And we were right outside of the seance room, and behind him is a wall. It's like a glass wall, and the doors are made out of glass, so you can still see inside the seance room, but he had the door shut. And as he's trying to like explain the whole thing on the haunted dolls, I saw this like ghost. I'm not joking, because I wasn't even the only one that saw it. It was another person that saw it too. Like a stranger saw this with me. So I experienced a haunted stuff, or a haunted experience with a stranger, which I thought was pretty cool. Okay, so what had happened was he's explaining this whole thing on the dolls, and behind him this like white orb looking thing like pops up from behind him. And he's like telling the story about like these dolls. They're all paying attention to him, and I'm like blinking. I'm like, is there an eye booger? Like, what is happening here? Is there an eye booger in my eye? And so I'm like literally blinking, like, is there something in my eye? Like, I don't feel discomfort in my eye, but what's happening? And then like this white orb thing like walks past him, and it like in front of the glass door, and it's trying to open up the glass door thing. And you can hear the metal clanking at this point. And I'm like, oh, so it's not an eye booger. There's something that's trying to open these metal doors. And then it just dissolves. And I was like, did no one? And it just happened in a matter of seconds. The girl next to me gasps. She's like, oh, and she turns to her sister and she's like, did you see that? And her sister's like, no, I didn't see anything. So like no one saw it other than me and this girl. So then I touched the girl on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You saw that? And she goes, yes. I'm like, walk me through what you just saw, because I just saw this. And she saw the same exact thing. Crazy. It was, yeah. I'm shocked that no one else saw it. And again, it was like, had I not heard the metal door clanking, has she not seen it, I would have just like, and Matt thought to myself, no, it's just like an eye booger. I saw an eye, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the thing with like paranormal stuff, or like haunted stuff or haunted experiences. It literally happens in like a blink of an eye. Like that whole thing was so quick. And my brain could not comprehend what I was physically seeing right in front of me. And that's the thing sometimes. It's like, you cannot comprehend. You're like, wait, what is happening here? And it literally looks like those like, it literally looked like those like crappy like CCTV footage that you see. You know, like, have you seen those like crappy like fake paranormal videos with like the fuzzy in it? It looked like the it looked, that's why I was like, what's in my eye? And then like the girl was like, I saw the same thing. I was like, oh my God, I'm glad you did, because I would have walked away thinking like there was an eye booger. It was an eye booger. But my eye didn't feel uncomfortable. Like I even like kind of like did this. And like, what am I? Yeah, it was like the wildest experience. That was like the one, like that was so wild to me. And then I've also had people tell me that they've had experiences where like their paranormal experience is more of like they look like real people. So you wouldn't even know, because they look like real people, but then they just like disappear. And I think that also makes me think about some like experiences that I've had, because you wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean? Like if they look like real people, physical people, how would you know? There was this person that was telling me, there's the comedy club, I forgot the name of it, but it's like the infamous comedy club that's in West Hollywood, and it's like obviously known for being haunted and stuff like that. And anyway, so this person was telling me that they used to do they had done stand-up comedy there. And this guy was hilarious. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is another side story. This guy, I had met him because I did a video, like a pilot for like a friend of mine, and her whole like pilot was on dreams and stuff like that. So anyway, I was on the segment, and then afterwards she has like her friends, and she's also a comedian, and she knows a lot of people that do like stand-up comedy. Wait, the groundlings? Wait, what are the groundlings? um so she like anyway, so with this guy, freaking hilarious. He was hilarious. Like I was like laughing. You know when you like laugh and roll? You roll. That was me. So anyway, so we were talking and he was telling me about like the comedy, like the stand-up comedy place. It's in West Hollywood. I don't remember the name of it. And it's probably just like comedy club, West Hollywood, probably. You know, something very obvious. Anyway, so he like told me that he had done like a segment there, and well, besides the segment, before doing the segment, sorry, he was getting ready and setting up his stuff, and there's like a stairs, right? And he said that he saw a guy look like a real person, but then you look down and like the bottom half was missing, just floating, walking down the stairs. I'm like, shut up. No, you didn't. He goes, yes, I did. I was like, shut up. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And he swears that he did. He swears that he saw it. And it freaked him out. And then like I guess like somebody that was in the front desk, they said, hey, like who's up there with you? And he's like, nobody. Nobody's up there with me. Nobody. And the lady's like, I literally just saw a guy. So they both saw it, but like, you know, like one person is seeing him go up the stairs, but she didn't see the bottom because she was like on the other side of the table. And then he was going down the stairs and he's seeing this like apparition or this person. I thought that was wild. I was like, no, you didn't. He's like, yes, I did. I was like, oh my gosh. But I mean, that's how I feel when I share my story. It's like, I can't like push it too much because it's like, you either believe me or you don't, you know, and that's okay. Like it is, I know what I saw. That was wild. I went back again, actually, with another friend of mine. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. I think those are like eerie. Those are eerie when you see like half of, like, it's implied that someone's there. Like what was it? There was a story I was hearing and they saw footprints, but no one there. And it was like snow and there couldn't have been nobody up there or something like that. Like some story, and I'm like, that's creepy. But yeah, so yeah, just little things like that. Again, like I understand why people like don't believe until they have an experience, because again, like I know how I sound when saying this out loud. I'm like, yeah, it sounds pretty out there, and I don't expect people to believe that, and that's okay too. And that's why I always say like experience is everything. Like you should want to experience your experience to like either give you like, do you want to believe or not believe? Like that's totally up to you. Like I always feel like we should look for reasonable explanations before jumping into like handprints on windows. Okay, so speaking of that, handprints on windows. So there used to be this urban legend when I used to live in Colorado. And I feel, but it's interesting because over the years, I saw on BuzzFeed Unsolved there was handprints on a window. Wait, which one was it? Was it a recent video? I used to work for BuzzFeed Unsolved. But there is a urban legend in Colorado, and there's two haunted roads in Colorado. The one that I covered was Riverdale Road. And there was another road closer to the airport, which I know if everyone knows about this, the Denver airport has all kinds of urban legends, conspiracy. I have friends that work at the airport, so it's just funny to me. But do I believe in those conspiracies? No. Do I think the airport can be eerie? Absolutely. There is another haunted road near the airport, and there was the story about how if you go to this one haunted road out there and you drive up to like near the bridge area and you like you I feel like you have to either say something or wait, you will see handprints appear on the back window or something like that. So fun, interesting stuff. And then fast forward recently on Reddit, I was reading about a haunted road, but it was not in Colorado. And they were talking about how you can see the handprints. Like it's same thing. Like you go somewhere and you sit there and you have to be there like late at night and you'll like handprints will appear or something like that. So now I'm wondering, like, are similar stories like this? And I'm sure there is, but where are they located? It's Birdie says, I live in Denver. I never heard of that one. Now I'm gonna okay, the one that I know for a fact, like the one that I did like in a whole video, and it's on YouTube if anyone ever wants to watch it. It's one of my older videos. So anyway, but I did a video on it and it's called Riverdale Road. You can also go online and like look at the list of things. I did a video on the urban legends, but also on the missing girl that was found on Riverdale Road. It was a cold case back in like I think the late 70s or early 70s. I don't remember right now. And this poor girl, and I thought about like revisiting that story because they hired a psychic to try to find her. Her family hired a psychic. And I had to like get the files from like a Denver public library. I got like the newspaper clippings from it. And so anyways, there's this whole story on Riverdale Road where people have talked about a haunted Camaro, a phantom jogger. They talked about like this story of how this guy went crazy, burned down his house with his family, allegedly with his family in it. And there is stories how they never repaired the house. So it's all Riverdale Road. And my neighbor who had lived in that area her whole life had said that there was this one night because she used to work as a waitress at like I think like a diner. So they had like late hours driving home, and she was driving home on that road to get to her house, and she saw what looked like a car turned over with this guy and his daughter, and they were just staring off into the distance, a very blank stare. And when she pulled over to ask if they were okay, they did not acknowledge her. They just kept staring off into the distance, a very blank look on their face. And she just didn't know what to do. So she just like rolled up the window and just drove slowly away. And as she looked on her mirror, like the side of the mirror, they were gone. They were gone. They disappeared. No car, no people. Really weird. So she thinks it was a ghost. She thinks it was part of the urban legend. There's this video that has been taken down, and oh my God, it bothers me because I've been trying to find this. I believe it's been taken down because I can't find it. And there's a story on this guy who had gone to Riverdale Road, and he didn't believe in ghosts. You know, this is like back before they remodeled the road because now it's like a nice road. And he said that he had gone there with his two friends. First, it was him and his best friend. They went and they saw what they saw like what we would now describe as like a rake looking, you know, like the rake, like the really thin figure that's like I don't even know how to describe, like the creepy rake thing, you know, like a thin, and it's like it has like a weird posture. You know what I'm talking about, the humanoid thing? So he said he saw this thing, and then they ran away. They came back the second time with a friend who's like not a believer of this stuff, and they all started getting this feeling of being watched. They all like they had the feeling of being watched, and they were hearing noises, and then his friends started like not acting like himself, and then they left. And then I guess like the friend like just stopped, like went silence. They could not contact him. Like after this event, they could not contact him. He got all paranoid. He said that something was watching him, blah, 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 blah. So he went from being like a huge skeptic to like, oh my God, whatever we did out there, something's watching me, blah, blah, blah. And then he felt like something was happening. The guy telling the story felt like stuff was happening to him. And that like his girlfriend at the time, his mom was like a Reiki healer. And I guess like she caught, like he didn't even tell her. They didn't know that they had gone to like this haunted place, and the mom was doing like this cleansing on him, and she was like, you went somewhere with heavy energy and da da da. And so he started freaking out. He's like, oh my God, like, do you feel it? Do you see it here? And then she just said, don't talk about it, don't acknowledge it, like we're gonna do a cleansing, stop thinking about it. And ever since then he worked on that and it just vanished. So he believes something followed him and his friends. And his friend that was like a skeptic was like paranoid and scared and just wasn't the same after that experience. So who knows? I don't know. I really wanted to find that video because I would have loved for us to do like a watch party on this video, because that video, I think about that video. I feel like we all have that one video that we think about we can't find anymore. That's my video. The video that I think about from time to time. I'm like, where did it go? Where did this video go? Freaky, right? Anyway. So yeah, Riverdale Road is like known to be haunted. The other one, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I had a friend that lived in Aurora, and it's closer to Aurora, and apparently she knew the lore about it as well. I just don't remember the name of it. But yeah, if you look up like haunted roads in Denver or like near Denver Airport, I'm sure you'll find a few of those listings. Sorry, I went on a tangent with like Colorado. But yeah, so little things like that. I'm trying to think of what else. Like I don't know. I feel like Colorado has like a lot of spooky stuff, like the Rocky Mountains. There's also like what else? Okay, the Pikes Peak. So Colorado is obviously like a hub for like hiking and trails and national parks. The mountains make it spooky. Yes. I did a story on this one too a while back, and because there's this book, and I don't know if I have it near me. Oh, here we go. It is near me. So there's this book that I have here. It's called Colorado Legends and Lore. And there is some interesting stories on here. Yeah, there like apparently this is the one that I highlighted a lot because I was going to do a story on it. I don't know if I ever got the chance to do it, but apparently like people claim that the Fountain of Youth was in Colorado. People like fought for this. There was the one that gets to me was the one like, because this is like more on like falling into like true crime weird stuff, because the mountains is very spooky. And I look back on my life when I used to live in Denver. I'm like, how did I do these hikes by myself? I used to do hikes by myself out there. I would do like a whole day hike. Like I would be up there in the mountains from like 5 a.m. up until 1 p.m. It was like, I don't know. I used to just do a lot of hiking back then. And I mean, I feel like Colorado in some aspects, maybe when I was doing them, felt safe. Would I ever do hiking by myself living out here in California? No, absolutely not. No. No. But there is the story that kind of freaked me out a little bit, was the story of Alfred Packer. So he was like the first ever person that was, I think, tried for or charged with cannibalism. And I think it was the United States. But if it's not the United States, then at least the state of Colorado. There was something there with that. He's buried in Littleton, Colorado. And I remember because I had gone to visit all of these different like grave sites and cemeteries when I had lived out there before I moved out. And especially during the pandemic, I felt like it was like, okay, I'm gonna go walk around here and like do all these things before I leave, because I moved out in like 2021. And so anyway, but it's really eerie because where he's buried, like people like leave him stuff. I'm like, why would you go leave offerings to a cannibal? But the story goes is that he went up to the mountains with a person, and they had been, I think they were going to go like look for gold or mine or whatever. And then he came back, and people were like, well, where is this guy that you went up there with? And he's like, oh, he got attacked by animals. He couldn't make it. But I guess his story had changed a couple of times. And then like people started to notice that he had his clothes, his wallet, all these other things. And then that's when it came to light that he had attacked this guy and attempted to eat him. Really wild stuff. Yeah, it's just... But yeah, the Colorado has like a lot of interesting stories, spooky, tragic, cryptid story. It has a lot of different stuff for sure. Pikes Peak. I remember I've never hiked up Pikes Peak, but I did go, like we did go to visit Pikes Peak, and you'll see like a Bigfoot, wooden statue out there, if I'm not mistaken. And so like apparently like that's where there's been a lot of like allegedly Bigfoot sightings. So it's Colorado's a very interesting place, needless to say. A lot of interesting stuff. Plus the Stanley. Obviously, everyone knows Colorado for the Stanley, but I feel like there's so many other stuff out there that is underrated or overshadowed by the Stanley Hotel. But the Stanley Hotel is very beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you've never been, you should definitely go up to Estes Park, go to the Stanley. It's really cool. Like, they have a restaurant there. I know I've done like day trips and stuff like that out there, and we've ate at the restaurant and done like the walked around and stuff like that. And I know during like the holidays and stuff like that, they have more events and everything. So yeah, anyway, I went on a whole tangent Colorado. I'm sorry. I hope this is oh, that wasn't too boring. But yeah, I miss it though. I do miss Colorado. I still have friends out there. Definitely a very special, will always be a very special place. Very beautiful place. I know, like, even when I went this last time, so much has changed since I left Colorado, but very beautiful state. Love Colorado. But yeah, a lot has changed. And I'm sure a lot will continue to change. You've been summoned. I was just talking about the haunted roads in Colorado. We're talking about the first cannibal that was pressed charges with, Alfred Packer, Stanley Hotel. What else was I talking about with Colorado? Bigfoot, the Bigfoot sightings. There's a wooden statue at Pikes Peak. There's just a lot in Colorado. I miss it. I mean, I lived there for like 10 years, so I miss it, but I'm glad to be closer to my family. The haunted, yeah, so Riverdale Road is one that I mentioned. There's another one closer to the airport or in Aurora. I just remember the name of it, which makes me sad. I feel like I should know the name of it, but I don't. But I had a friend of mine that said that, like, you know, she had gone out there and apparently like handprints will show up on the back of your car, little things like that. But yeah, there's all kinds of spooky stuff. Colorado is just spooky stuff galore. Yeah, there's also like if you ever have the chance, I always tell people, because I'm so glad I got to visit before I left, but I want to go back so badly. The UFO tower in the San Luis Valley in Colorado. I'm really glad I got to go out there for a number of reasons. First, we visit the UFO tower, and I didn't meet the owner. I didn't get a chance to meet the owner, but I met someone that worked there, and I got to see she has like a guest book. I didn't see this part, but I saw the binder. She has like binders of email submissions of people that have written to the owner of like UFO sightings experiences. It's just a very interesting place. And then also when you walk up to the UFO tower, there's this little like trinket garden, and there's supposed to be like a vortex there. And I remember that like the lady's like, well, I won't tell you where it is. I want you to see if you can feel it, which we did. We did feel where the vortex was, like the interesting energy there. The girl working there was also telling me about this podcast, which I have been binge listening to. And it's about Alaska, which is where my husband is from. He was born and raised in Alaska. So that's a whole other thing in itself. But she gave me a recommendation of this podcast called Up and Vanished. If you haven't heard of it, you need to listen to this podcast called Up and Vanished. The most recent season is so good. I've been wanting to do a video on it, honestly, because I am just so moved by the missing Indigenous people. Like, I mean, it's always an important topic to talk about this because so many missing Indigenous women go missing all the time. But it's frustrating how law enforcement has not done much about this case. And even like in the case of Colorado, I think season 2 was based off of a woman in Colorado, especially in the San Luis Valley area. And it took me down a whole rabbit hole of like, yes, the UFO Watchtower is one of the many things out there, but the thing with like the southern west part of Colorado is that it's called Up and Vanished. And I also joined his Discord and everything. But he takes a whole season dedicated to a case. So it's not like a 1 hour video on a case. It's literally like the whole season. So he's not even done with this most recent one. He just kind of updated us on the most recent interviews. So he'll interview everybody, like law enforcement, attorneys, the victims' families, friends, the people that was last seen with the victim. Like he literally goes and he does a thorough thing on it. And the case of the one that he did was a missing woman in Colorado. And it actually brought up a lot of points about like there's a lot of like the cults of Colorado. Like not all, there's not like let me rephrase that. Apparently in the southwest side, there's this town where it's kind of like a hippie, like spiritual town. And this woman had gone missing there. There was no law enforcement there. And so by the time that she was reported missing, it's like they had to retrace their steps through a Facebook page. And so obviously, like, till this day, no one knows what happened to her. I believe he solved the first case. I believe that's why the podcast became so popular, because the first season, the case that he covered, he solved it. And so like that blew him up. As far as I know, the one that I was listening to, he did not solve it, but he did get to the bottom of like, well, look, like her going missing was all hearsay based off a Facebook page. Like, how do we know what really happened? So it is really tragic. But it put in perspective of like the southwest side of Colorado and how there's this like cult called the Rainbow Cult, I think. And like they are these like nomad people that like just, there's no identity. There's no identity. I live in Los Angeles, California. And so, yeah, it's just interesting stuff. But anyway, I know on a whole tangent with Colorado. All right, I'm going to end the live. I've been on this live for a hot minute now. Talking about Colorado, listening to user submitted scary stories to, we're not talking about Colorado and the strange stuff and tragic stuff. But I've been on here for a while, so I'm going to end the live. And yeah. Oh, I can go on a whole tangent. I love Colorado. I love Colorado. 10 years. 10 years of Colorado. Love it. All right, I'm going to end it. So I'm going to end over here on TikTok and then over here on YouTube. So ending it right now on TikTok. Bye, guys, over on TikTok. And then I'm going to end it. I never know how to end the live here on YouTube. So you're probably watching me like struggling. I guess I figured it out. All right. Technology. It's easy. All right.